Pleased to be joined by Bret Bielema, James Franklin, and Scott Frost. I want to start with you, Bret. Welcome back.
Thank you.
To the Big Ten. How does your familiarity with the league impact kind of a time frame on a rebuild?
Well, not so much the league, but just being from Illinois. You know, I was born and raised high school football player in the state. Obviously, went to a Big Ten school, coached at another Big Ten school that are in the Big Ten West. So there's familiarity with that, but I've really been out of the league so long. Obviously, spent my time in Arkansas, then in the NFL, and so 8 years removed from the competition. It's very unique, but it is kind of surreal coming in here today to be back in Indy. The last game I coached in this league was against Nebraska in the Big Ten championship game, and then to come full circle and open up against Scott and Memorial Stadium, it's really just an awesome experience.
Scott, let me ask you, it's always challenging to prepare for an opener, particularly when there is a brand new staff. What are the particular challenges of figuring out, hey, what tape do we watch? How do we try to figure out what these guys are going to do?
I'm going to try to talk Bret into sending us some practice tape so we can figure some
Good
things
luck on
out.
that. Yeah.
There's advantages and disadvantages to playing week 0. I'm excited that 2 Big Ten teams get to kick off the college football season the way we do and be the first show on television for people, and looking forward to the game.
And now, not only do we get to play this year, but full stadiums. What will it mean to have those stadiums full, to have tailgaters, to have the bands and the cheerleaders and everything that goes along with it?
For me, my wife did this awesome thing where she bought 30 of those cutouts of our family and friends and everybody that comes to games. And it was really cool the first time. After that, it was bizarre. I mean, I remember when I got the job at Penn State was averaging 91,000 fans per game, and that was not a positive for us. And 2 years before COVID, I think we averaged 106 and 105,000 fans. We had our spring game this year. They allowed us to have, I think we had our freshman class there. And I want to say there was like 6,000 fans. And I had coaches and players coming up to me like, this is unbelievable. Like, the energy that we got from just those 6,000 fans. So it'll be special to get back to 107.
I want to get a little bit on the field with you guys. James, I want to start with you and Mike Yurcich, new offensive coordinator. Give us a sense of what we should expect.
Well, I think it's going to be very similar to what we've been kind of in our past. Especially the years, with the Big Ten championship and things like that. We want to be explosive. We want to make people defend 53 1/3 the entire width of the field. I think, with some of the playmakers that we have at the wide receiver position and tight end, I think we got a chance to do that. There's a lot of weapons for Mike to take advantage of, and obviously have an experienced quarterback like Sean Clifford, who's had a lot of success 2 years ago. 11 wins, we win the Cotton Bowl, and then obviously last year with some challenges, but it's opportunity for growth, it's opportunity to learn, and that's how we're embracing it.
Scott, you have a veteran quarterback as well, and Adrian Martinez. It's no secret you need to score more points. What gives you the confidence that this offense this year will?
Well, we're going to be experienced for the first time in a long time. We got to replace some guys at the skill positions, but I think we're more talented than we've ever been. Adrian's in a really good place. I can't wait to watch him this year. He's got enough talent to accomplish anything he wants to and to lead us where we want to go. And we've been rebuilding for 3 years now and feel like we got a roster now that's ready to take the next step. And we got to go out and earn it, but we're looking forward to that opportunity.
Bret, I know Scott's going to be listening very closely here. What should we expect schematically from you with Tony Peterson on offense, with Ryan Walters on defense? What's this going to look like?
Dave, coming back in the league, I know there's a lot of people that thought, okay, hey, he's going to do what he had done at Wisconsin, what he had done at Arkansas. But one of my intents was to hire 2 coordinators that I've never worked with, right? So Tony had brought a lot of experience from places he had been. I think to blend what he's done, what we believe in, but also bring in, guys from around George McDonald from NC State, Bart Miller, who had been at Minnesota with Jerry Kill, but also had been around the country. And then Ryan Walters on defense, he obviously had been at Missouri, but it's kind of a blending. I wanted to make Illinois football, Illinois offense, defense, and special teams. I didn't want someone coming in with a playbook saying this is what we're going to run. So it'll be kind of a blending process.
Scott Frost, James Franklin, Bret Bielema. Guys, thanks so much for your time. Really good to see all 3 of you back here together.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Same to you.
Looking at the commonalities with you guys, one of the things that stood out to me right away is you both open with Power 5 opponents. In your case, West Virginia. In your case, Ohio State. So not just a Power 5 opponent, but one of the most powerful of the Power Five. So I'll start with you, PJ. How does it change your approach in the preseason to have that daunting an opponent opening up the schedule?
You mean the things we didn't have in common was our bald heads? You went to our opponents?
Straight to the
Man,
point.
that was way too smart for me. I would probably say for us, you're training the entire offseason for the long haul, right? And obviously everything people focus on is the first game. We're focusing on the entire season. When you play a Big Ten schedule, every game's hard. It doesn't matter who you play. It's a Big Ten. So for us, I think our fans are really excited about it. A sellout crowd, Thursday night, Big Ten football, open the year. And again, we'd have to be at our best because, as you know, they're pretty good. So,
Locks, how about for you with West Virginia?
Yeah, for me, I think the big thing is it's a great barometer for us as to where we are. We'll know pretty quickly because, growing up in the DMV area, the Maryland-West Virginia rivalry, because border states, and, I grew up watching these games and very competitive, and I expect this one to be just that, but it's going to be a great barometer for where we are as a program pretty quickly, and it gets our attention pretty quickly.
Coach, you've got 2 new coordinators.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of how you were able to get your system implemented in spring ball.
The system doesn't change. I can tell you, being a head coach in New Mexico, when I lost people, guys would come in with their playbooks, and the 50 other kids had to learn what this one guy coming in did on defense or offense or special teams. Well, that's not how we do it at Maryland. We got a Maryland way. It's really not like we're reinventing the wheel on offense, defense, or special teams. It's just allowing these new coaches to put their personality into how we do the things we want to do in all 3 phases. And I'm excited to have veteran guys like that come help me take the next step with this team.
I want to ask you a little bit more about Dan Enos. His quarterback when he was at Alabama was Tua, and now he's got Talia. Does that familiarity carry over at all as he looks to become kind of more consistent heading into this year?
There's no doubt about it that I think that'll help because, Dan was part of recruiting Talia. So they had a personal relationship, much like I did during the recruiting process of him, and then we both left. And so I do think there's a comfort level there. Obviously, Tua's relationship with myself and with Dan and the success he had with us together. We're hoping that, again, we can recreate that magic, get Talia to take the next step like we all want to do in year 3 in terms of the consistency that you need to play with the right kind of habits.
As long as we're talking quarterbacks, interested in getting your take on your quarterback. Tanner Morgan was so good 2 years ago and then went through some personal issues last year. And of course, change in coordinator. A lot of stuff was different. How do you get him back to playing at that level in 2019 where he was indisputably one of the best quarterbacks in the country?
Yeah, I don't worry about Tanner getting back to the 19. Yeah, I just want him to get better. There's a lot of circumstances outside of our control that made how we played and what we did the way it was. I mean, there was new receivers all the time he's throwing to. He threw to Rashad Bateman, I think, 55% of the time. And somebody asked me that, and I said, wouldn't you? I mean, the first-round draft pick. I mean, wouldn't you throw it to him 55%? He is the leader of our football team. He's the heartbeat of our football team. I'm so thankful he's our leader, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
PJ Fleck, Mike Locksley, pleasure to spend time with you both. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Joined by Greg Schiano and Mel Tucker. Guys, the commonality between you two is pretty obvious. You both were first-year coaches last year, and you took over programs in the most unusual year in the history of college football. Great timing, right? So now that you have a little bit more of a sense of normalcy, and Greg, I can start with you, obviously interested in both of your takes. How does it feel this year to kind of have your feet under you a little more and have the opportunity to have a bit more of a normal year?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think our players are, just to be playing in front of fans, to be able to do some things the way that we're used to doing them as an organization. I think that's exciting. But one thing as a new coach, I thought I learned a lot about our team with that extra adversity that was built in. I mean, I really felt like it accelerated my ability to understand who really loved the game of football, who was really committed to the culture and what we were about. And I'm proud of the guys because the ones who stuck around, they did an incredible job to be able to play all those games, not miss one game. That took a lot of sacrifice.
Like Greg said, we learned a lot during that COVID season. It really forced us to find uh, different ways to connect with our players, really connect with their families, and to really appreciate each other.
Hard not to be wowed by what you're doing in high school recruiting. I mean, in the top 12 nationally in the recruiting rankings right now. I mean, that is unfamiliar territory, to say the least, uncharted territory for Rutgers football. Why have you been able to have so much success in selling this program where perhaps in the past others hadn't?
Well, I think we're fortunate in that we hit a year where we really have, there's a lot of guys that fit what we're looking for, because Rutgers football isn't for everybody. I think when you look at the educational institution, where we're located, and now we're a member of the Big Ten, which I think is the elite of all elite conferences, where high-level elite academics meets high-level football, that sweet spot, and to do it in the New York metropolitan area, to me, it's really why, not why don't they, but they should be here. And I think our staff, because we're kind of guys that are from that area, they believe that. And I think when you really believe it, then you can go out and share that. So it's been good so far, but I think we've been a little fortunate too.
Well, I want to take it on the field for this year. There's a lot of interest in your quarterback battle, Peyton Thorne and Anthony Russo.
Oh.
Give us a little bit of insight coming out of the spring in terms of where you think that sits right now.
It's an open competition, and the best players are going to play, not just at the quarterback position, but across our team. And there's nothing ever set in stone. You're going to have to compete every day to be on the field. I feel good about where we are in that competition. Both guys have great leadership ability, and quite frankly, we're going to need them both. And I really enjoy what I'm seeing in terms of how they work together. They're helping each other. That's culture. That's behavior. Only time will tell how it's going to turn out, but your quarterback has to be the number one competitor on your team, and both of those guys are elite level competitors.
Greg Schiano, Mel Tucker, thanks so much for your time. Very pleased to be joined now by Paul Chryst, Tom Allen, Kirk Ferentz. Guys, let's start with this. Tom, you're coming off an amazing year. Team now has won back-to-back winning seasons in conference play for the first time since the 1980s. The reigning Big Ten Coach of the Year. So now the question becomes, how do you keep it going? What's the key to sustaining success at Indiana?
Well, first of all, just blessed to be able to have the opportunity we had last year. Proud of our players. A tough year for everybody. A lot of challenges for sure, but they rallied together and were able to do some great things together. And I think the key for the future is just to stay true to who we are. You have accountability, toughness, and love. That's our foundation of our program, and we're going to stick to that, and we're going to keep getting a little bit better every single day.
Well, Paul and Kirk, I don't want to put you in awkward spots, but when you think about sustained success in the Big Ten, I think your two programs are up there among the absolute elite. So what do you guys see as the key to sustaining success in this league?
I think we all enjoy as competitors is, past success does not guarantee or predict or, have anything to do with the future, right? You have to learn. Now, I think where you can learn things, and your younger players can learn from the older players, but it's every year it's a new challenge, and every challenge, right, is an opportunity, and yet you appreciate all the work that goes into it, and at the end of a year, just like Kirk has done so many times, and Tom, you appreciate what was done, and I think that's what's exciting about a season.
Your season last year was fascinating to me. You had some off-season challenges internally within the program, and then you started 0-2, losing 2 really close games, and then won 6 straight games and won almost all of them in overwhelming, convincing fashion. What did that tell you about your team? What did you learn about your group last year?
Well, certainly it was a really unusual and challenging year for everybody in our country, and it, for us, started on March 13th. We left campus for spring break and naively thought we'd be back maybe late April, something like that. And we know what happened there. But there are a lot of things that happened last year, a lot of challenges, and I think the one thing I held on to the entire ride was just that we really have good people in our organization, whether it's the support staff, certainly our coaching staff, and most importantly, our players. And I think that's really what the season reflected.
As we turn our attention to this season, Tom and Kirk, you guys open up against one another, a top 25 game, no doubt. It'll be on the Big Ten Network. I feel obligated to mention, and we're certainly excited to have that game. What does it mean to your program to be in a spotlight game like that, Tom, from the get-go? And what can it mean for your season to have a game of that magnitude right off the bat?
I think it's important. I love playing teams of that caliber right out of the gate, and it's the third time we've had a Big Ten opener since I've been at Indiana as head coach. And it creates a sense of urgency in the off season, and there's always an excitement about the year, but it's different when you open, conference play and such a high quality opponent on the road, and then Kirk's done such a great job there for so long. You mentioned the consistency and just the toughness that they exhibit every single year. So it's going to be an awesome challenge, and a great, but fans finally back and that'll probably be tougher on us, but at the same time, that's going to be neat for our guys.
Yeah, interestingly, I didn't approve the schedule. I don't know who does, but it is interesting. To my knowledge, we haven't opened with a Big Ten game aside from last year, obviously for obvious reasons. But as Tom said, I think it really certainly sharpened the focus of everybody on our football team. We know we have to, be ready to go right from the start, and that's always a challenge.
Paul, you're in a similar situation with Penn State as your first game. Again, that's going to be an enormous game that the nation is going to be focused on. How do you feel about this trend towards starting the season with a conference opener?
I'm excited about it, and I think part of that's because I know our players are so excited about that. We've had some big openers, non-conference more so, but anytime you play a conference game, and Tom and Kirk have talked about it, right? Every week is a challenging week. I think there's always excitement and the focus of the season, but when you are playing a conference game to start with, I think that adds something to it, and certainly a very good team in Penn State, that adds another element to it. And so but we're really looking forward to playing this year, and there's a lot of work we still have to do, from now, continue to do now and until we get to that game. But it's I think we're all excited for the season to come, but I know I certainly want to make sure we take advantage of the time that we have before that, so we are ready and prepared for that first game.
Paul Chryst, Tom Allen, Kirk Ferentz, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks,
Dave. Awesome.
So pleased to be joined now by Jeff Brohm and Ryan Day. Guys, I want to start with this. Ryan, I'm always interested in messaging coming into a year. You guys fell just short of a national title last year, played in the national championship game. With that in mind, what's the message to your team? Is the message about taking that extra step, or is it about wiping the slate clean? How do you go into a year?
Yeah, I think the easy thing to say is, well, we got to finish better, and we're one game away. But the truth is, we start with a conference game on the road on a Thursday night at Minnesota, and we're going to have a young quarterback at the helm, and it's going to be really hard. So that part is actually, in terms of messaging, hasn't been very difficult because if we don't win that first game, we don't move on.
Jeff, how about with you? You guys started off great. You were 2-0. And then 4 straight losses, but by a total of 27 points. So it wasn't very hard to imagine with one play here or one play there, the narrative on the season could have been very different. So same notion. What's the message to your guys heading into the year with last year in mind?
We want to compete. We want to finish. We do feel like we're close. Just need to get better at a lot of the small things. And I think we've worked very hard this past offseason as coaches and players to identify what those areas are. How to attack it, how to help improve the team. I think our team is hungry. They want to go out there and compete and play some football. And we're excited to get the season started. We've got a great schedule, very competitive schedule from game one to the very end. And it's an opportunity for us to show what we're made of and how far we can come. And there's a lot of obstacles, but I think it'll be a very fun season for us.
Ryan, you head into this year as the overwhelming favorite in the conference, and yet at the most important position in the game, you don't have any players on your roster who have thrown a college pass. That's a huge area of strength for you, of course, developing quarterbacks. But what is the particular challenge of getting to the point, especially as you said, with a really challenging game right from the get-go, of being ready to hit the ground running at that position?
Yeah, a lot of sleepless nights here heading into the first game for sure. That's college football, is replacing great players, but this is a unique situation. We made the decision that we wanted to find young quarterbacks that we can have in the program for 3 and 4 years. To make runs late in the season, you really want to have experienced quarterbacks. So the only way to do that is to invest in young guys. I think the other thing that's important is to understand that it's a long season. It can't just be the focus on who's the starter against Minnesota. it's a long run all the way to January. And so we're going to need all these guys, and the focus has to be on development.
Jeff, your situation at quarterback is interesting too. You returned 2 players, Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell, both of whom started 3 games last year. And Ryan makes the point of, look, who starts the first game might not be who starts the last game. And certainly you are acutely aware of that given the last few seasons. But what's kind of your mindset and what have you told each one of those 2 guys heading into the year about their roles?
I feel like we've got a great quarterback room. 2 guys that have played quite a bit and won some ball games for us. Do they need to improve and get better? Yes, but they are great people. They work well together. We've got and Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. Then really Austin Burton and Michael Lamo, 2 young quarterbacks. One's a transfer that we brought in. One's a young prospect. Both had very good springs. Both are, I think, can be productive quarterbacks. So we feel like we've got plenty of depth, and we're not going to be scared to play multiple guys. And I think all of our quarterbacks know that. They support each other. And I got to do a good job of making sure that I don't ask our quarterbacks to do too much. We build the offense and we utilize our weapons. And while we want to create big plays, we've got to take care of the football and do the small things right. But they're great leaders. They're great people, and I think they'll do it.
Pleased to be joined by Jim Harbaugh and Pat Fitzgerald. Guys, you are together for an interesting reason, and that is you guys are going to play in a new trophy game this year, the George Jewett Trophy, which interestingly is named after the first African-American to play football at both schools, at both Michigan and Northwestern. What does this trophy mean to each of you? And Fitz, I can start with you.
Well, I think it starts, number one, with an amazing new tradition for both of our schools and to really lift up the legacy and to really educate our guys on the history of the Big Ten, from a diversity standpoint. And it's going to be a huge challenge taking on Coach Harbaugh's team for us, but from a standpoint of a new opportunity to lift up an amazing man, an amazing family, is going to be something I think both of our programs are going to really enjoy.
Jim?
Same as Pat, great tradition. George Jewett played at Michigan in 1890, and then the 1892 season as well. And the cool thing, and just kind of on a personal side, Coleman Jewett, who was the grandson of George Jewett, was my brother and I and everybody in Ann Arbor went to Tappan in the late 70s. He was the assistant principal and a great teacher. So there's a lot of it's just cool. Yeah, it's just really awesome. And the trophy is amazing.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
So yeah, we're really, really fired up about it, as you can tell.
We are as well, and really looking forward to ushering in this new tradition with both schools. I want to talk to each about your teams. Fitz, I'll start with you. You're coming off a wildly successful year. You finished in the top 10 for the first time since 1995. You won the division for the second time in 3 years. Now, you did lose a ton of production off of that team. Give us a sense of what the biggest challenges are going to be for you to get back to that level you've been over the last few years.
Well, I think like everybody at this time of the year, the new faces, the new opportunities for the guys that maybe last year didn't have the role they wanted. Now here's their opportunity. We believe we recruited well. We've developed well, and now it's time to put those finishing touches on during training camp.
Jim, you really overhauled your staff. I want to ask you about defense in particular. It was a challenging year for you guys defensively. You made a change. Mike McDonald has ties to your family with your brother, obviously, at the Ravens. What gave you the sense that he was the right guy?
He's got a college background, was with the Ravens for about 6 to 8 years. Young guy, he's in his 30s, the old fat part of the bat. Remember that? That part of the
absolutely
in your 30s. Young, enthusiastic, energetic, and really smart.
Interesting commonality between you two is this will be the third straight year that you'll have new starting quarterbacks. What are the particular challenges, Jim, of breaking in a new quarterback each year?
You never know about a quarterback until they're out there playing 11-on-11 football. Now, Cade McNamara did get in games last year for us, played very well, had an excellent spring. He's taking charge, doing everything, and has all the traits that you want in a quarterback. And J.J. McCarthy has those same traits and same competitive nature and talented and athletic. And so, putting talented guys out there and then let them do.
I look at it the other way around. I've been there before. So, just understanding what it takes to be, efficient and be someone that can be productive at that position.
it's all encompassing. And, Ryan and Hunter and Andrew all three have game experiences, Ryan in the SEC and then Hunter and Andrew here in the Big Ten in their background. So they need to draw upon that, and then they just need to be their best self. It will happen. It'll finalize and probably crystallize for both of our teams here over the next probably month. I doubt Jim, like me, will probably say a whole lot about it until after the opener, but that's I guess our advantage for the opening game.
Yeah, I mean, you throw the balls out there,
Yeah.
and they compete, and then it becomes clear to everybody. I mean, who the best player is and who the best quarterback is. I mean, and then they go play.
Pat Fitzgerald, Jim Harbaugh, thanks so much, guys. Really a pleasure to see you both.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Commissioner, this has been a crazy first 18 months or so for you in this position. We've been in a world where everyone in every position has been very reactive here. And certainly you've been in a position where you've had to do that. But now a chance to be proactive and a chance to really start putting your imprint on this conference and some of the initiatives that are important to you. So give us a sense of what's coming up and what some of the projects that you're working on are.
I mean, Dave, you're exactly right. I mean, one of the things that's exciting about where we stand today is that many of the items that I had planned to do last year, we didn't get a chance to do. Many of the initiatives, via the Equality Coalition, even the mental health and wellness. I mean, we launched that coalition, and we were able to provide all of our members of the Big Ten family, coaches, staff with the call map, and the feedback that we have received was unbelievable, over 300,000 downloads. But we'll really be able to amplify mental health and wellness, amplify the Equality Coalition. And so I'm looking forward to be able to really amplify all of the just great elements that the Big Ten has to offer.
You made some news at Media Days among the initiatives, bringing Barry Alvarez on board in the conference office. Give us a sense of what his role will be.
I mean, Coach had told me that he was planning on retiring, and it was actually during the men's basketball tournament here. And I told him right there on the spot, he had a home in the Big Ten office, that I wanted him to be with us. And I'm just so grateful that he's going to be there with us, because there's so many things that we're dealing with in college athletics right now that he will be an incredible asset to help us navigate.
You also announced the George and Viola Talaferro Fellowship. Give us a sense of the significance of this fellowship and what it's going to mean.
George has been someone that I truly, and I don't use this word often, he's a hero of mine that I really looked up to. And so one of my first trips, my actual first trip last year to a campus was Indiana University. And one of the things that I wanted to do was go to see his statue, to be able to touch it. I have a great picture of me touching his statue. People need to understand, for him to be the first Black player drafted in the NFL. And one of the things that really struck me is that George told a story that he was not allowed as a Black man to eat on campus. So he would have to come to campus in the morning, go to class, go all the way home to eat a sandwich and try to make it back either for class or for practice. But then on Saturday, he was the one that everyone was cheering for. What's crazy about it, this is not like this was 400 years ago.
No.
I mean, this is in our lifetime. And for us to provide young people from communities who may not have had an opportunity to get into leadership positions in sports, to provide them with an opportunity through the Big Ten family to work in the office of the commissioner, I'm just so fortunate and grateful to be able to start this fellowship.
College football playoff expansion. Where does the Big Ten stand, and what's kind of the right number from the Big Ten's point of view?
Yeah, as you know, there's been a proposal that's been put forth by one of our ad hoc working groups. Do I think expansion will occur? Yes, I really do. The biggest thing for me is to make sure that as we start unpacking all of these different issues, that I do it from a point of education and really understanding. This will not be an emotional decision as far as what I recommend and what I want to do. I want to be very methodical in this, to gather information, talk to our medical personnel, have injuries increased based upon the teams that have played in the last couple college football playoffs. Maybe, maybe not. How have our student athletes done academically when they've gone to the college football playoff? Have they done better from a grade point average standpoint? Have they graduated on time? Just to look at those different things. And because of where we're located, we would have to winterize all of our stadiums, because those games would be played on campus and possibly in December. There's a multiplicity of items that we really need to look at. Although I personally believe in expansion, and I do believe it will happen,
The most important thing, Dave, that we need to do is make sure, what do we got to ask ourselves, what's the best thing for our student athletes? And when I say our student athletes, not only in the Big Ten, but in all of college football, and then secondly, what's best for college football.
We're now in this NIL era, and what needs to happen with NIL? Does it need to be uniform, or are you comfortable with where it is right now, which is kind of every state gets to make up whatever rules they feel are appropriate?
I think it would be best served, again, what's best for our student athletes, what's best for college athletics, if we had uniform rules. I think we do need federal legislation. Then I just want to make sure that our student athletes are educated to understand, what it means to handle money. And so many times people think, money is about numbers. Money is a language, and it takes time to understand, what does that really mean? How are the taxes going to be handled? What does it mean from an emotional standpoint? And so I am all for name, image, and likeness, and for our players to have an opportunity to capitalize on that from a financial standpoint. I just want to make sure that they're educated and their families are educated and that they are allowed to be young people.
Kevin Warren, Commissioner of the Big Ten. Thanks.
Thank you.